most of the sutras on Tathagata Garva having been already translated in the early period. And then such a figure like Padmasambhava, who has such a important role in the entire Tibetan Buddhism, has authored Mengathawe Tengma and discussed Buddha nature. So that's that for the early period. But as we come forward, I think the earliest scholar from the Nyingma side in the later translation period would be Rongzompa, right? And you have done work on him. So if you can, yes, talk about Rongzompa and his position on Buddha nature.
Yes, I wish we had much more longer time. I would like to really discuss every little detail of something related with Buddha nature, but we have to be pragmatic. Yes, once I pointed out that as opposed to or as compared to King Dorbopa, who seems to interpret the concept of Swayambhu Jnana, Rangjungyi Ishe, or self-occurring gnosis, he seems to interpret the Tathagata Gava, whenever it occurs, in the light of the Rangjungyi Ishe, not vice versa. So this is an important point, and I see his Rangjungyi Ishe, the little work devoted to Rangjungyi Ishe, which now Khenpo Gezang from Mysore Nyingma Research Center is working, Khenpo Gezang Dendu. So this work is a little bit like a treatise on his, let us say, tantric version of the Tathagata Gava in the form of Rangjungyi Ishe. So this point is very important in my view. And second point is, of course, we have to remind ourselves that Rongzompa did not know the Ratnagota Vibhava. It was not yet translated, and we don't seem to have any indication that he knew the Yulama or the Ratnagota Vibhaga. But interestingly, I must say, this is my impression. I need to investigate further. Is the Tensik number sum in the Yulama, like the three kinds of reasoning justifying, let us say, the existence of the Buddha nature in every sentient being. I'm a bit surprised to see that there is a similar kind of three arguments, but of course, the thesis is different. Is to prove or to try to make a case for the position that even the mind of an ordinary sentient being is already characterized by Rangjungyi Ishe. Yeah? So there is some striking similarity in these three kinds of reasoning. But of course, you are also an expert on Mipam. I was just want to throw this question to all of us: is using the four reasonings, Rikpashi, to make a case for the Tathagata Gava, whether it is his own novelty or there is somebody else have done before. It's still unclear to me. So I thought it would be an interesting point just to, but Rongzompa doesn't use the four reasonings to prove that even the mind of an ordinary sentient being is characterized by Rangjungyi Ishe. Yes.
You're basically saying that Rongzompa, without having access to the Ratnagotra Vibhaga text, actually expounded something very similar to the three reasonings in the text, right?
Yes.
But not four reasonings that we would find, for instance, in Chizong Desen's Kayang Dakpesema.
Yes. Although he does use Rikpashi elsewhere and on many occasions for different purposes. But maybe we can already now give it in advance. I mean, we thought we'll do it a little bit more systematic, but maybe I'll forget, is indeed, if we compare now with Dorbopa or even Longchenpa, now we will come to Longchenpa, but I think Rongzompa, we can characterize his position on the Buddha nature or the reality is really what we call apophatic, rather than cataphatic, or rather negative intellectualist, more a negative intellectualist rather than a positive mystical one. But still, there are two important main philosophical positions that somehow, if he knew the Ratnagota Vibhava, he would have found or used or even harmonized the idea that the rootlessness of all phenomena is the root of all phenomena. This is illustrated beautifully in the Ratnagota Vibhava, as we all know. And this is also his main philosophical position as propounded by Vimalakirtinidesha Sutra, Ratnaguna Samchaya Gatha, and many others. So Shimit Sadal, in other words, what we call Shimit Sadal, I think in a way he would have said it is propounded also in Ratnagota Vivага. And this is one, I think, one common aspect which he would have had no problem accepting the Ratnagota Vivaga's central philosophy. Another position is, we know that when we talk about the Tathagata Gaba, we inevitably have to talk about the evaluation of the three Dharma chakras, the first one, second one, and third one. And of course, with regard to Tathagata Gaba, the middle, Kabarpa, and the Tama, it becomes very, these two becomes very pertinent. And I feel that Rongzompa's way to reconcile the teachings of the so-called the second turning of the wheel of the Dharma and the third would have been the Minebe Nyangendeba concept, Apratisthana Nirvana, non-fixed Nirvana. So these two things, one Apratisthana Nirvana concept and the rootlessness of all phenomena seems to be propounded also in the Ratnagota Vivага, which he would have easily found compatible with the rest of his philosophy, which is called then the Chitamjarabdu Minebrahma philosophy.
To me, this doesn't easily reconcile Ratnagota Vivага presentation and Rongzompa's position. You, in your article, you call the article Rongzompa's ontological abyss. So Sarva Dharma Apratisthana,
yes.
Advocate of rootlessness, as you put it. So for him, rootlessness or the groundlessness, the lack of foundation is the foundation. Whereas Ratnagota Vivага, on the whole, wants to approach it in a very catalytic way, as you say, to present a foundation. Buddha nature is considered the ground, right? The Shikam, the Shinglingpo. So at least in terms of the presentation, one is really presenting a foundation, whereas Rongzompa is denying that foundation. So I suppose Rongzompa is very much like what later they would call a Rangtongpa.
Yes. He may be called a Rangtongpa par excellence. Yeah. It's true, you're right, completely right. I think also methodologically, it would be a bit wrong to ascribe the entire Gyulama approach or the Ratnagota approach to Rongzompa, because I think in the very conception of the Ratnagota Vivага, it is positive mystical, undoubtedly. And to impose the kind of a purely Rangtong approach to Gyulama would be not only anachronistic, but will not do a justice to the work itself. But with all the differences, now if we were to find one or few shared component, what would that be? And this is, by the way, it should also be a little bit similar, despite all the differences of the Rangtong Shentong differences. If we again carefully examine the Dolpopa's understanding of the Brahma, that in the Nyamsha perspective, right? So he himself is proposing that Chöpadam Nishprapancha. So there too we see a shared, despite the Dolpopa's clear emphasis on the positive mystical side, we would still see some shared or a common ground, right? So you're right. I think Gyulama's approach is completely different than Rongzompa's approach.
For the audience, I think it's worth knowing that Rongzompa really stands out as a very unique and exceptional scholar of his time. Right? His writings are quite different from his contemporaries or later Tibetan authors in terms of style, in terms of presentation, in terms of his mode of analysis. So I can see how he's a super rationalist in arguing for this groundlessness or rootlessness, even with regard to the nature of the mind.